Hi, David, and thank you once more for taking the time for this conversation. I can imagine how busy things for you right now.
Yeah, it's a bit crazy, but happy to be here. Thanks for having me, and excited to have this chat.
Super, super cool. I think we should start with the most important question. That how do you pronounce EK or EKA, or how do you pronounce it? And
The
where
right
does the name
pronunciation,
come from?
the correct pronunciation is Ika. I'm actually not 100% sure I'm doing it with the exact right pronunciation because it's in Japanese, and it means squid in Japanese. I don't know if you know, but a lot of the Sui projects are have like an aquatic theme.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we chose the squid, and just like Sui is water in Japanese, then Ika is squid in Japanese.
Oh, that's cool. Now I understand all the anime related pictures and memes and stuff like that.
Yeah, we do have quite a cult around the squid.
Yeah, yeah, I see that. um, over the sorry, it's
I know it's the Mac. It's the Mac.
yeah. We just realized that it's happening when I do this
Yeah.
because it thinks that I'm showing the victory. Yeah, like this.
And by the way, if you do this, then it does confetti. Yeah.
And actually you can't switch it off, like
Yeah.
there's no way. So over the past few months I've been diving deep into SUI, and there were a few projects that really caught my attention. One of them was IKA, sorry. I will try to remember that. It's like 10,000 TPS, zero trust security, and no bridges. That's a big plus for me. And all things that make a crypto nerd eyes water, I'm sure. Could you tell us a bit more about what you are building and what impact you think it will have on the crypto world?
Absolutely. So, I mean, a lot of the people who find out about Ika usually, or many times, do it through kind of the community, and then they have like the more fun side of the squids and the anime and all of that. But we're in fact a very deep cryptography research project, and we've been working for over 3 years now on this project. The first 2 years were mostly doing cryptography research with some of the best cryptographers in the world. Um, and what we did is we actually created new cryptography, a new cryptographic scheme, and also a new primitive for builders. So the cryptographic scheme we created is called 2PC MPC, and it's a way to generate signatures where you have a user and a massively decentralized network generating the signature together. And that allowed us to create this new primitive for builders that we call a D-wallet. And a D-wallet is a signing mechanism that you can use in order to control assets, to generate signatures for any other chain. And you can control that from a SUI smart contract. And you can also allow, as you said, zero trust security. You can also allow the user to always be required cryptographically. So this is like very, very kind of deep tech. We're building very low level infrastructure. Actually, no users will probably interact directly with Ika. It will mostly be solutions that are utilizing our tech in their SUI smart contract. And some of their users won't even know that they're using Ika under the hood. It'll just allow them to interact with and to control assets on other networks through SUI.
Oh, I see. I see. And what does it? You already said that most users will don't won't even notice that what's happening under the hood. And but what this new MPC technology? What is how does it differ from like traditional blockchain bridges or other MPC solutions? What's the biggest advantage in your opinion?
So that's a good question. Maybe we can go a step back and talk about
Sure.
the challenges and why we had to create new cryptography, what were the problems we were trying to solve. So if you look at the history of crypto, right, we started with Bitcoin. That was amazing. And then you started having more kind of, let's call it Bitcoin forks, right? A lot of
Yeah.
networks that try to change certain things and become like their own like specific application with their own specific purpose. And then Ethereum came along and introduced smart contracts. And since then, you've seen an explosion of networks, app chains, different smart contract networks. And in this world of many chains, you have the issue of being able to operate between chains. And what is that issue? The issue is when you're operating on one single chain, Bitcoin, Sui, Solana, whatever, when you're operating on one chain, you have a very strong security guarantee. And that is the basic guarantee that every blockchain user knows about, which is you have a private key and no one can do anything without your consent, right? If you have a private key, a wallet, and you have Bitcoin in that wallet, even if all the nodes, all of the miners in the world decide that they want to take your Bitcoin, they can't do that because they need your private key. And we call that a zero trust security guarantee. You don't have to trust anyone. You can also recreate the state in case, let's say, validators or miners try to put in a transaction that is not valid, that wasn't signed by you. You can verify the state from Genesis. That's why you have a blockchain, right? So you can verify all of the blocks, all of the history, and then you can see, oh, this was a transaction that isn't valid because it's not signed by the owner of the private key, and then you can discard it. So blockchains are built on this zero trust security guarantee. Now, the problem starts when you have more than one blockchain and you want to do things between blockchains. You have to trust someone to tell you what is the state of the other blockchain. So you can't have that zero trust security guarantee that you had before. And that is a big problem. And, you know, when people wanted to start operating between blockchains, you had things like centralized custodians, right, that tell you,
Yeah.
okay, I will hold, let's say, a good example of that is a WBTC, okay? You have BitGo operate WBTC, you give your Bitcoin to BitGo, and you're trusting them, and they are giving you WBTC on Ethereum or on Solana, and they're telling you, when you give us back the WBTC, we'll give you back your BTC or Bitcoin. So that's one way to do that. You have to trust an intermediary. And then you had other types of bridges where there was a committee that you had to trust, but you always had to trust someone, right? You had to trust
Sure.
someone in the middle, an intermediary, a third party. And that is exactly what crypto was supposed to solve. I don't want to trust an intermediary. I want to be able to have zero trust, right? I want to know that if I have an asset, it's my asset and not something that someone else controls, whether it's a committee or whether it's a centralized custodian, it doesn't matter. So that was the big problem we wanted to solve. And it was a very complicated problem because the cryptography that existed didn't have a solution for this problem. You couldn't do it. You couldn't have zero trust interoperability. And what we created, this new MPC protocol, it solved that big problem, but it also solved a few more problems along the way that allowed it to be very kind of universal and generic infrastructure. So I'll explain how we solve the zero trust problem in a second, but first we'll do the easier thing. So a lot of the solutions today are slow, are not scalable, and are not decentralized. So you can't have a lot of parties. So
Yeah,
even
it's the trifecta problem
yeah,
always.
so we solved all of these problems with our new protocol. So our protocol is super fast, it's very scalable, and it can also be very decentralized. It can operate with hundreds and even thousands of parties. If we look at bridges today, usually it's under 10, some
Yeah.
like under 10 parties, some get to like 20 parties, but that's basically the maximum that we're talking about. So we were able to really shatter that record of decentralization, but also in terms of speed and scalability. We won't go into exactly how we did all of that, but we wanted to solve all of these problems because we wanted it to become the definitive infrastructure for interoperability. And the most complicated part was to solve the zero trust security. And the way we did that, our protocol is called 2PC MPC. So 2PC is two-party computation. So an MPC is multi-party computation. So in MPC or 2PC, what you have is you don't have one private key. You have different shares, and together those shares can generate a signature just like a private key. And what we did is we took a two-party computation. So there are two different shares. Only together they can generate a signature. One share belongs to the user, and the other share is operated by the ICA network. And that's why it's called 2PC MPC, because operated by the network means we have a nested MPC. So actually what we have, in order to generate a valid signature, you need to have the user. So the user has to be involved. So there's zero trust, right? If the user doesn't accept or approve, then nothing happens. So you don't have to trust the other party, the network. But then the network itself, that can be very, very decentralized because we solved the decentralization problem, can also enforce logic. So if the network doesn't agree, then also a signature is not generated. So you can create smart contracts that determine whether or not a transaction is signed. And that means essentially, right, we said that this is very low-level infrastructure. But on top of this infrastructure, you can build any type of logic that you want. And that logic will require the user, but it will also be enforced by a massively decentralized network. So now you can build bridges, but you can also remove bridges altogether. You can create a DeFi protocol, for example, that operates directly on Bitcoin or on Solana from a Sui smart contract. And you can create lending or swapping or whatever type of DeFi logic you want. And that logic lives on Sui, but can be extended through ICA to any other network.
I see. I see. It's really a game changer. I don't think that most people grab the concept yet, but I'm sure it will transform lots of things, and not just on Sui, but on a whole different scale.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges when you're creating like new tech that didn't exist before is that it's very hard to understand or imagine what is possible before people start building those things.
Yeah.
Like when Ethereum started, you know, it was very hard to imagine what does a smart contract mean, right? Usually, people had in mind like things that are very, very different from what you have today. They thought like, oh, I want to pay for something and you want to accept it, so we have a smart contract, right? Like a contract you have in reality, but now it's on the blockchain. And then, you know, people started building. So you had Uniswap. Now people are starting to imagine, oh, this is how DeFi can work, right? Then people started building NFTs and people started creating those things. And only after you had a few projects, then you start saying, oh, okay, I think I understand what a smart contract means. So
Yeah.
it's a bit difficult when you introduce a new primitive like this D wallet, and people are trying to connect it to things that exist today, and they're saying, oh, you can make like it's like a bridge but more decentralized. Yeah, you can use a D wallet to do that, but you also have new use cases that this unlocks that only after they exist it'll become more clear.
Yeah, yeah. You always it's much easier to connect the dots when you look back, like 6 months or a year.
Absolutely.
Um, I'm really curious that where did the partnership with Sui came from, and why did you choose the blockchain, the Sui?
So when we started, we had two very big problems to solve. So one problem was the problem that I described, creating zero trust interoperability, but also creating the cryptography in a way that is very high performance. But then you need to take the cryptography and you need to implement it inside a decentralized network. And when we started 3 years ago, Sui didn't exist. And we looked at the things that did exist, right? EVM and Cosmos and Polkadot and, you know, all the options that we had.
Yeah.
And none of them were good enough. Like they were not acceptable. So we said, okay, there are two big problems to solve. One, we need to solve this cryptography problem, which is very complicated, of zero trust interoperability. The other problem is to create a high performance blockchain that will, you know, you'll be able to use as infrastructure. You'll be able to implement this cryptographic protocol that we're also creating. So we decided to focus first on the cryptography, which I'm glad we did, because while we were doing that, you know, Miston Labs were solving the other problems. So after 2 years, when we were able to complete the cryptography research and have our first version, we're now launching the second version of our protocol. So we started looking at what changed in the past 2 years, and we were very, very impressed by Sui. And we really thought that the design of Sui, I mean, obviously the performance, but also the basic design of being based on objects instead of accounts, and the move language, everything, we were very, very impressed. And at first we thought, like, we started an early partnership, and we thought about having kind of a separate network and having that network kind of read data from Sui with a light on it. It was a bit more complex, but after a few months, we realized the best path was to just natively operate and coordinate directly on Sui, use Sui as our coordination layer, and just be natively available on Sui. So what we have now, right now, is we're going to launch ICA, which is going to be a signer network, an MPC network. But everything on ICA is going to be coordinated directly on Sui. Our token is going to be on Sui. It's very similar to Walrus, if you're familiar with the recent launch
Yeah.
of Walrus. So Walrus is a storage network, but it coordinates completely on Sui. So we are going to be an MPC network that also coordinates directly on Sui.
I always encounter with this idea that the whole SUI is like a huge decentralized computer, and there are parts of this computer. Walrus is the storage, and SUI is the operating system or stuff like that. What do you think? What is ICA stands for as a computer part?
I don't know. Maybe a futuristic computer. I think about it like tentacles, right?
Like a
We're a
quantum
squid.
computer.
Yeah, we're a squid, and we have tentacles that are just like reaching out to all of the other chains. But I think ICA is just another piece of infrastructure that allows Sui builders to have a very, very robust platform. So if I'm a Sui builder, I now have storage, decentralized storage out of the box in my smart contract. I also have now the ability to generate signatures or to control assets on other chains out of the box. So this like toolbox for Sui builders is evolving very, very fast. I do think that Sui today, I mean, it's definitely the best kind of platform for builders. But I think the more tools like Walrus and ICA are added, it just becomes so powerful that it's hard for me to imagine, especially for complex use cases or novel
Yeah.
use cases, it's hard for me to imagine a better ecosystem than Sui.
I see. I see. Did you have a Heureka moment when you started the development on Sui and it just came to realize that it's gonna work?
Yeah, I mean, I always say that if Miston Labs didn't build Sui, then we would have to build it ourselves, because we created this really amazing cryptography protocol, and if you try and put that or use that protocol in EVM, for example, then you would lose a lot of the advantages, and all of the optimizations that we did in order to get amazing performance would just go away because the actual network and consensus would slow us down. So I think having Sui and being able to reach things that before our research were science fiction, like sub-second MPC signatures with hundreds of nodes, is something that no one could even imagine. Just to give you examples, today, distributed MPC federations usually have between like 4 and 8 parties. And they still take a few seconds to generate a signature, and they have a throughput of like a few signatures per second. And so for us to be able to scale to hundreds of parties and be sub-second signatures with thousands or even tens of thousands of transactions per second, signature per second, is something that is complete science fiction. And the only way we are able to bring that full potential is because we also have Sui to implement that on.
Oh, I see. I see. And what do you think? What do you see as the biggest challenge right now?
So I think there are a few challenges. One challenge is being able to think about a new design space. So uh, what we have right now, and we talked a bit about just zero trust interoperability, but there's also a lot of new really cool capabilities that this enables that weren't possible before. For example, transferring an account. When you have a private key, you can't transfer your account to me, right?
Yeah.
Because you always know your private key, so I can't trust that. But with a D-wallet, for the first time in Web3, you're now able to transfer an entire account. And now there's this new design space that opens up because now I can start to design things around, for example, trading illiquid assets, right? Or thinking about, soulbound tokens, or things that you used to think about as attached to an account are now becoming more flexible and more tradable.
Yeah.
So there's this new design space that I think people are exploring, and we talked about zero trust security, right? In order to create zero trust DeFi, you can't use the existing platforms. You can't like fork Uniswap and just have like a DeFi, a zero trust DeFi. You need to rebuild things from scratch. You need to think about them in a different way. And so I think we already have quite a few very talented builders that are thinking about those challenges. But I think this is the big challenge: is to try and create or utilize this new design space in order to create these new types of solutions that will eventually, I mean, my belief is eventually they will take over, especially when we're talking about things like institutional adoption.
Yeah.
For institutions, it's very hard to participate in DeFi if they have a lot of trust assumptions that they need to have on top of being in crypto. But if you have zero trust security, for example, you can take a loan against your native Bitcoin without having to bridge it, without having to wrap it, without tax events, without derivatives. That makes things much, much more easier for institutional adoption. So I think being able to take this design space and create those new types of solutions is the biggest challenge that we have right now. And we also have a lot of builders that are kind of taking the existing things that exist today and just are making it better, faster, more secure, more decentralized with Ika. So that is something that I think we're seeing a lot. And I think the big challenge would be to create these new types of use cases, these new types of solutions.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I already can imagine what types of education and learning materials and tutorials you will have to produce to get the idea into the developer's head. But I think it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's always fun, and honestly, I think that we can come up with a lot of like ideas and directions, but at the end of the day, the real innovation always comes from builders,
Yeah,
and people will eventually come up with better things than we can come up with, right? We created the infrastructure, that's amazing, but then coming up with the novel use cases and the best implementations, that's always up to builders who are 100% focused on a very specific problem and can create the best solution for that problem.
sure, sure. Uh, I've just seen that you announced that the pre-mainnet, and you already announced that the mainnet launch is gonna be in like Q1 2025. I'm not sure if it's
Uh,
correct.
no, I mean Q1 is already finished, so definitely not
Oh,
Q1.
sorry, Q2. Sorry.
So yeah,
I'm
we
living
are
in
we
the
are
past.
planning. Yeah, we are planning to have our mainnet launch very soon. And you're right, we released some pre-mainnet tasks for the
Yeah.
community. Yeah, we like to keep the community engaged. We have an NFT collection and a lot of kind of gamification that we've done around that. But some of the mainnet pre-mainnet tasks are also connected to D-Wallet, so we allow people to start pre-generating their first D-Wallet, creating a commitment on chain that they will use later to create their first D-Wallet, and just to allow people to start, kind of experiencing or having a small taste of the tech as well. And yeah, we don't have an official announcement yet, but we will be launching mainnet very soon. We're gearing up towards that.
Cool.
So yeah, it's gonna be an exciting time.
What do we have to know about the launch of mainnet? What is, I mean, what can we expect at launch? What will change?
So we already have quite a few builders that are building on testnet, utilizing Ika's tech and building their smart contracts on Sui. So we are expecting on day one on mainnet to already have applications that are going to be live utilizing Ika on Sui. Some of those applications are custody protocols. So you can think about it like a decentralized Fireblocks or
Okay.
multi-chain Gnosis Safe that are built on top of Ika on Sui. So we have those type of protocols, and we have some DeFi protocols, and we have a lot of projects that are focused on Bitcoin programmability. So being able to utilize native Bitcoin through a Sui smart contract. So a lot of them are going to be live on day one. As I said, users won't have direct kind of usage of Ika. It will mostly be through builders that are utilizing the tech. So we are expecting to have quite a few that will be live on day one on mainnet. But then, it's natural that once you launch on mainnet and people developers are able to look at the tech and see the performance working live, we will have more and more protocols that incorporate Ika or are built completely
Mm.
around Ika. So that's what we're expecting for the next few months, is to just have a lot of inflow of new developers exploring new use cases.
I see. I see. Since the Walrus airdrop, the airdrop hunters just flooded Twitter, like the Sui Twitter, and I can totally understand why is that. Sui has already seen like several really successful airdrops, like Suiness and Deep, and now it's Walrus. And I'm curious, how do you plan to make the Ika airdrop stand out? What's gonna be different?
So, I mean, for obvious reasons, I can't really talk a lot about those type of things. I can't
Sorry,
also.
I had to try it.
I know, I know. I also can't confirm that there will be an airdrop. What I can say is
Okay.
my beliefs in general. In general, I believe that the early community is a big part of a success of a protocol. Especially, a lot of people ask us like, why do you need and we have the largest community today on Sui, and
Yeah,
people ask us like, why do you need to have a community? You're low level infrastructure, you're targeting developers, but what we tell them is that we want to give the first 10,000 users to every developer who uses Ika, and we already have such a devoted and such an enthusiastic community that every new builder that announces that they're going to utilize Ika already has so much attention for that community. So that's a huge plus for us as an infrastructure. So I believe that a community, and especially an OG community that forms like before the tech is even live, has a big part of a success of a protocol. And I believe that that success should be rewarded. I'm also very vocal about that on X, on Twitter. I think that community allocation should be larger than investor allocation, and I mean direct community allocation, right? Like public
sure.
sales or airdrops or things like that. That should be larger than what you give private investors. I mean, private investors, especially for protocols like us, which have a lot of research that you need to do before it goes live, it's important, and you need to have investors. But at the end of the day, the biggest factor for success won't be a VC that wrote a check. It will be thousands and thousands of people that are evangelizing your protocol. So that's my belief in general. As I said, unfortunately, I can't share a lot of details. All I can say is I think Ika has an amazing community, and you should check it out and be part of it.
I'm sure. I'm definitely 100% on board. I've got like my NFTs and droplets and everything. Uh,
Amazing.
yeah, yeah. And I've just seen your prank, your joke for April ones, uh, about VCs and the Ethereum. I think it was quite funny. First, I was like, "What the hell?" then 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 I just realized, oh, okay, it's just April Fool's. Okay.
Yeah, this is a day you shouldn't be on Twitter, and even when you're ready for it, you have some things that you're like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, especially in hindsight, when you go back to someone's tweets and you're like, wait, what? And then you realize the date. But yeah,
yeah. I retweeted it just for sure.
got it.
Um, we already talked about the Squid Market NFTs. It has the highest volume on TradePort right now, so it's clear that it has a massive interest. I think most of it came from the speculation of airdrop, but I think, and maybe you can say something about it, maybe not, that these NFTs are not just for. I mean, will the NFTs or the keys have any significance later on? Do you plan to give them any further roles?
So, I mean, first of all, and we were also vocal about that. For us, like this NFT collection represents the OG community of Ika. And I believe our community now is very large, but I believe it's just going to get bigger and bigger. And you have a lot of examples of these types of collections that represent like an OG community, right? You had like Mad Lads, and you have Bad Kids, and you have like all these NFTs that represent like an OG community. And I believe this is like our version of that. We already had a few builders that are building on top of Ika that hinted that they would also reward NFT hold like the Ika NFT holders as part of their like community building. So I do believe that this is going to be a very easy way to anyone who wants to engage like the hardcore Ika community to be able to do that through the NFT. And I think there are enough examples in like the history of Web3 to kind of understand where that can go. And yeah, at the end of the day, it really depends if you believe in the long-term like success and future of Ika and of Sui, then that's kind of the consideration around that.
Okay, okay. Thanks for that.
Yeah, for sure. Being a founder is very hard. Like you need to
Yeah,
navigate
I know.
what you can say and what you can't say. So I hope I'm being as clear as I can without saying things that I'm not supposed to.
You are doing awesome. So so thank you for that. We already talked about how Sui inspired the team and how that you said that if Miston Labs didn't create it, you should create it. What is there a project or technology in the space? I mean, other than Sui, that inspires you and your team while developing the ICA?
Yeah, I mean, so there are a lot of inspirations, right? Also in small things. I mean, we're not working in a vacuum, and there are a lot of talented teams that are working on a lot of different things, whether it's on the cryptography side or whether it's on engineering. I do think that the Miston Labs team are really an exceptional team. And the fact that they've been able to ship all, like, I mean, obviously Sui, but besides Sui, you have, you mentioned Deep and NS and Walrus, and they're now also doing Sui Play, which is like the console,
Yeah.
and there's so many things that they're shipping, and each one of them has like a super high standard in terms of it's not like a side project, right? Every single one of those things is best in class. Like I believe Walrus is the best decentralized storage solution today, and Deep is like the best infrastructure for on-chain order books. Like when they build something, it's the best, and I think this is like the inspiration. Besides like specific technical inspirations that you can have, like from many different places. There are a lot of very inspiring people working in this space. But I think having like a team that consistently delivers best in class products one after the other at amazing pace, like unheard of or unseen in any other place. I think that's a real inspiration. And I think this is, you know, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but Web3 doesn't have the quality yet that you have in Web 2, especially in like highly regarded Web 2 categories like AI or cybersecurity or cloud, right? There you have the best engineers, the best teams, the best standards, the best quality. And in Web3, you don't have that yet. You have a lot of very enthusiastic people, but you don't have the same level of quality. And then when you see a team like that, like Mistin Labs is one of the top teams in the world, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not in Web3. But in Web3, it just stands out because you don't have a lot of teams in that caliber. And by the way, Miston Labs is one example, but you have more teams on Sui that are like that. I'd like to say we are a team of that caliber as well, but there are multiple teams on Sui. You can see that serious developers who care about good tech are automatically attracted to Sui. So you have an unproportional kind of presence of these type of developers and this type of high quality teams. So yeah, I think being able to create that level of tech and that level of success and also attracting that caliber of teams, I think it's something that Mistin and the Sui team should be very, very proud of.
What's your message to those who hearing about ICA for the first time, like right now? Why should they keep an eye on the project?
So it really depends who you are. If you're a builder, if you're a developer, I think that ICA gives you a unique opportunity to create something novel, to be a first of your kind. There are not a lot of opportunities like that in crypto today. Mostly you see, oh, I'll build, you know, this on this chain, it'll be a bit faster, or maybe I will do like this small tweak, right? But you don't have these big swings, these big ideas that can't be possible anywhere else. And now I'm creating the first of its kind. And so I think this, for ambitious builders, this is a huge opportunity. If you want to build something big, if you want to build something that no one else could build before, then this is a big opportunity. This is something that you should definitely check out. If you are a user, a community member, a crypto enthusiast, I think we have one of the most fun, engaging, like positive, cool communities in Web3. So definitely you should check us out, Discord, Telegram, X. I think you're going to have a lot of fun. So that's my message.
Super, super. David, thank you for taking the time for us. Yeah, I'm super excited about the mainnet launch. Maybe yes or maybe not airdrop, and of course the new of the new developments on ICA and Sui. Thank you very much, and hopefully we will see you in maybe in the Sui base camp, I
Yeah,
guess.
absolutely. I'm actually going to speak at Sui Camp and my co-founder Omer as well. Yeah, would love to meet you in person. And thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you, David.